Well, the first thing I did today was take this flat stock material over to my buddy's house, and I used his sheet metal brake to bend these edges and get everything shaped up so that I could start forming up the box of this hopper piece that I need to build. Now, it didn't take me very long over at his place to get these angles built. In fact, I spent a lot more time shooting the bull with my friend than I did actually working on these pieces. But that's okay, because it was kind of nice to get away from my place for a minute and spend a little time catching up with my friend. So now that I'm back with them, I'm ready to start fitting them up and getting them ready to be welded together. I took a small metal template with me to represent each of the angles that I needed to bend so that I could use it for reference when I was bending them and make sure I had them at the appropriate angle. Then I just needed to touch off the edges with the grinder to make sure there wasn't any snags or anything sharp that would catch and make it a problem fitting things up. The old parts were just welded up with a bead weld on the overlap seam, so that's what I'm doing going back together. However, I am welding the entire seam on the inside to make sure that nothing that's added through this hopper gets caught in between the sandwich layers in that little bit of a gap, causing things to rust out prematurely. I want to make sure that that seam is welded up fully and fully sealed, just for good measure. I know it's a bunch of work going through and replacing all this rusted out sheet metal, and it takes a bunch of time, but really the cost is not that high. I'm buying all this sheet metal from the local salvage yard, and it's good usable material, and it's real cheap. All total, I spent about $150 worth of bearings and bolts to replace the things that I had to either break or torch to get things apart. The augers I plan on rebuilding rather than replacing. The sheet metal I'm rebuilding rather than replacing. And altogether, I haven't spent even $20 worth of metal from the salvage yard to rebuild all of this tinware. I've shopped this type of grinder for over a year now, and for a good usable one that's in relatively good condition, I would spend anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000, but almost all of them are at least 1,000 miles away. I found this one local and knew what I was getting into when I bought it. By the time it's all said and done, I'll have around $1,000 into this machine in total, including the purchase price. It'll be as good as new, and it's going to definitely outlast the amount of use that I'm going to put it through. So it's money and time well spent, in my opinion.
Okay, that's got that part all prepared. And now I just need to make this end plate to go on here, and then the new tunnel to go across here, and then there's a little piece of like a strap kind of clampy thing that comes across the top of that to come on there. Oh, and one little lip right here that's just welded on to stiffen up this face and keep it straight. So I think it was ultimately the best decision to just rebuild that whole structure. A lot of this wrinkled up, bent stuff was going to be really complicated to try to get straight. There's holes and patches, and then like I said before, this stuff here on this rolled lip, this will never come back together because it's all stretched. So you end up like trying to heat it and compress it back together, which is time consuming and difficult. Or you cut it and then pull it back and straighten it out and weld it. And it just isn't as good. It doesn't look as good, and it's not as long lasting and stiff again. A couple more pieces and this part's ready for paint. Rough cutting and rough measuring, I think that's pretty dang close. It's all above, it's just a hopper, so it doesn't really, if I had it at a steeper wall angle, or if it was larger at the bottom, at the top than it is in the old part, or anything like that, any variables there really wouldn't make too much difference as long as they fit in the space. And the space is right here, so there's all kinds of room. So it just isn't a problem. All right, now I'm gonna cut out this end plate. So I've got a chunk of some, I don't know what it is, 1/8 inch thick. It's basically the same, looks like the same thickness as this plate that's there. I'll cut it out for that, and then I'll probably do take some measurements and line up the holes that I need to cut in there. I think I might just use my plasma to cut that part. And then these slotted holes, I'll probably just drill and then connect them. They were 3/8 bolts, and they're just slotted so that you can get that auger to adjust and make sure it's nice and flat and level and sitting in there without the 3 components. Having this adjustable and then the other tube bolt on, there's a risk that you can get the tube to be slanted or angled and have that auger not rest in a good position. These slots allow me to adjust that auger on the end and bring all that kind of into line so that the auger strikes at a good position and has good clearance and doesn't rub and wear through. So I need to make sure that I have slotted holes in the ends of this too. But this is not a big deal. This will be a quick and easy cut. Empty. Now I think I'll turn it this way so that I can get a little bit flatter weld in there. That works for that. Put a wire brush on that thing and get that cleaned. We're almost there. Okay, pick up where we left off. I'm going to knock everything on the ground. I'm gonna cut a little strip for this. This is a little strap piece that's welded on there. It's only about 3/4 of an inch, it looks like. I'm gonna cut that out of this same thick plate that I used for this bearing plate. That's all about the same thickness. That does measure right at 3/4 of an inch. That gives just enough room for that little seam strap to basically put the seam right in the center. And this piece is only the same thickness as the main sheet. Let's get another measurement here. How far does that go? All the way to the outside. 10 1/4, 10 1/2. Let's take that one, I guess. That's awful close. I could have probably moved that over just a little bit, but it can work. I don't know how I'm gonna hold that on there, other than just holding it. It's probably what it's gonna have to be, because I don't know how I'm gonna get it to clamp on there in any way. I'm just gonna spot a couple spots here to hold it, and then I'll flip it over and weld the back side, because I want this to be a smooth drop and not have any stuff in the way to be a catch point for anything. That should hold all that in place. Turn it around this way. Has a chance of putting that in a bind. Okay, get this out of the way, because we're just about done with that thing anyway. Oh, I guess it's time to stop putting this part off, get some measurements, and figure out the big radius curve. Probably the best place to measure is along the weld. So I'm just using this to try to get a template guide that matches the radius. And if it follows that weld, then I know I'm the right size there. There's just enough junk in the way. It's making that tough. You can measure it, but it's hard to get an accurate measurement You can math it, but then, you know, plus or minus in there. And sometimes it's just better if you just make a template. This is gonna do just fine. 16.5 by 18. Well, the other pieces I have are thinner material. The one I have that's the thickness I need is 14, which isn't long enough either direction. I need it 16.5 around and 18 long, and that doesn't give me enough length to do it. I guess we got to stop and make a run to the salvage yard and look for some more sheet stock of that. But I'm gonna need more anyway because I've got to do this other piece that's on the main tub. That 14-inch might work there, but I'm gonna need another couple of pieces to fix that up there. So I guess it means we got to pause and dang it. That's about right. That's way too small. Been digging around this pile for a while, and I found one piece here that's maybe just slightly thicker than the other that I've been using. I'm gonna take it because it's big enough. This one's another clean sheet that's thicker, much thicker stock. But I'm gonna take it also because it's, one, it's clean, it's not rusty at all, and two, it's about the right thickness for what I would want to use for the flighting, for reinforcing the flighting on the augers. Auger flighting's funny because you have to cut it weird, bend it weird to be able to make it usable. So I'm gonna grab a few pieces of that thickness. I don't need it to be very wide in one dimension. I just need it to be there so I can cut some pieces and weld them on as needed. Just not finding much in the right size of what I'm looking for. But aside from the one piece, that might be all I get today. I don't know. So maybe today is not a win. And I've got one piece that's big enough to finish up that shoe that I'm building right now, that hopper and stuff. I've been over this pile a few times now. This bit of strap that's even cut all the way, and it's that same thickness, so I'll probably just take it so I can use it for those straps and not have to cut my own strip. I guess we'll see. Start with this, come back if we have to. Okay, the trip to the salvage yard was successful. I got one piece here. It's gonna work fine for this piece. This was the only piece I could find there. We got lucky enough for that. Okay. Let's see. I'm laying back to eye line the top corner of this tube to the edge of the round pipe, and that's to ensure that these two are exactly parallel. That's what I did last time and it worked. So as long as they're parallel and then my line is nice and even with the tube, should be nice and straight for the bend. Man, I know this is the same thickness, I measured it, but dang, not as easy to bend this time. managed to duplicate. A little bit different effort. Okay, these flanges are pretty close, but this one's a little bit out here. Pretty good here, maybe right at the end. Need to adjust that a little bit because that one comes up a little high, but it measures out exactly where it should be. So it's sitting just right. Back in the back, we are 3.5 inches from the belly to the center of the bearing hole. And that's, I just measured the auger and it's exactly 7 inches. That puts us right at the auger. So I think we're there. We'll go ahead and spot that in place on the corners. I had to ditch the coat. It was getting too hot in here with the fire going. Turn that a little bit so I can. Okay, got the circle welded. Now I'm gonna weld this side all the way up because that's the smooth side that drops in on the back side of that. And this will keep anything from getting trapped in here and causing it to swell and be a problem. But I'll probably take a second and just spot a couple places so that it doesn't pull away from welding. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Okay, one last part is this one. Let's start with a little bend on the end. I don't want to cut this prematurely. I just want to cut off what I need. Or bend this tail, I guess. And I'm gonna leave it just a touch long. That is supposed to go there. Okay. Cut that off. And like I said, I'm leaving that a little bit long because I'll bring it back as needed. Okay, that's pretty close. Let's see what we can do with that. Now I got to decide how I want to attach that. I think I'm just going to put a couple of small beads down this back side. I don't think I'll do a full bead, but I'll probably do short little beads in a few spots there. Okay, I think that's got it. Let's see, I think I have a steel brush here. That'll be better. Okay, I think that's got it. That's got a nice lip there to kind of keep that sealed when it butts up against the other part. I'm not going to rebuild the lid, it's fine enough as it is. So that should be just fine. Okay, I like it. From this rusted out nonsense to that. I'll drill out these holes that are here later. I'm not worried about it right now. We're gonna call that done. Next step, I'm gonna put paint on those. I've got some good primer and some, I don't know if I have red. I definitely got black, but I might just prime them and wait to get the right color. Looks like I've got 1 can of Case IH red. The equipment guys go nuts when you use the wrong color red on the wrong color red tractor, red equipment. Same goes for the yellow. Use John Deere yellow instead of Cat yellow instead of New Holland yellow. They're all different. I'm gonna probably shoot them with primer and let them cure, and then we can come back and paint them. But the next step is to get started on that main tub, that bottom part. We'll get that part figured out, patterned out, something, whatever it's gonna take to get a new piece built for underneath there. We'll keep at it. They want to get it coated with it. The inside is probably going to polish off most of the paint probably within the first time or two of using it. I'm not going to fret too much over it, but I am going to try to get it coated inside this tube. It's a bit tough. Let those cure. Close the door and get the heat back in here. Okay, next part. Let those cure and we'll do the others.